navigate that as well. So yeah, that's kind of the gist of what we do. And I'm really excited to be here today to share those tips that I have that have worked with many of the students that we've worked with over the years. So yeah.
Great, thanks, Arlinda. And Corey, you're up.
Hi, Sandy, and hello, everybody. Thanks for having me on the call today. My name is Corey Shelton, and I'm the president and founder of 44 North Digital Marketing. We're a full-service digital marketing agency that's been around for just over 5 years. And we've got 2 offices, an office in Barrie and an office in London, Ontario. We've got a team of 10 full-time staff. And over the past, I'd say the last 3 or 4 years, as the team's grown, we've really learned how to make this remote working thing a reality. It's very hard to find talent in the digital marketing space. And I would say anybody who's good probably already has a job. So in order to find the best talent, we've had to go outside of both Barrie and London, and we actually have staff in Trenton, the Kawarthas areas, and Midland, and those staff have had to work remotely, and we've had to build out systems and processes to figure out how to do it efficiently and how to keep our company running. So my hope today is I can provide a little bit of advice on how we structure our company to provide the best services that we can remotely, and answer any questions that you have about how we do business, and hopefully provide a little advice. So thank you for having me.
Great, thanks, Corey. Thanks everyone for coming out this morning. Again, it's great to just kind of bring some knowledge to those that are struggling and trying to kind of maneuver things and figure things out on their own. So just a reminder, to submit your questions to the moderator, please choose the option within your Zoom platform. Please type it out and I will read the questions and direct them to the panel. So we've got a few already up here. Okay, so as a single parent, how do you schedule your day? I find it difficult keeping my children entertained, fed, and out of trouble while also trying to be productive at work. Who wants to jump in there?
I will. This is Michelle.
Okay.
So I would say one of the most important things you can do is establish routine. So predictability is really important when it comes to working from home. And the more you can do to manage expectations, yours and your child's expectations, the better it will be. So predictability reduces anxiety and provides your child with a roadmap to navigate what the day will look like. What I would suggest is posting a schedule each day. The most effective schedules for little ones are visually created with pictures. There's a great website called connectability.ca. It has a visual search engine and you can make a visual schedule for your child. So those schedules really help to establish the flow of the day, and make sure when you're building your schedule, you build in regular breaks so your child knows when they can expect your full attention.
Good, I like that. Arlinda, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, and I think as well, just kind of when you are building that schedule, try to be aware of your child's natural circadian rhythm. And that's to say, you know, when are they naturally tired? When are they naturally more relaxed? So that you can build your day around, you know, the times that will be most effective for you. Because if you know your child is extremely hyper first thing in the morning, that's probably not going to be conducive to you actually getting work done. So I definitely agree, structure is a big part of it, but then also allowing for real life in between, I think that helps too. And just being cognizant of the fact that your child might not understand, depending on how old they are, why it is that you need to be away from them. And so, you know, like Michelle said, really just explaining that so you can manage their anxiety about it. Right. And then for older kids, you know, giving them actual things to do does help. So, you know, telling them, okay, well, now it's your time to clean up the kitchen or to do something productive so that I can actually get some work done. And older kids are much easier. I give single parents my hand right now, especially with everything that's going on, having to keep kids home all day. But yeah, no, structuring that, but also structuring your time in a way that isn't restrictive. So making sure that when you've created a to-do list, you're actually building it down to as many points as you can. So, you know, I always tell kids when you're writing an essay, it's not just, oh, write the body paragraph, write this. Break each piece into more pieces so that you can feel like you're being productive, and that helps keep you, you know, having a workflow that's making you feel good, but also that can be stopped halfway through, you know, within a larger task, and you can come back to it without feeling like, oh, I lost the day, right? So I hope that makes sense. I know that last piece I didn't explain
No,
perfectly.
that's good. That's good. Thank you. This one might be good for Corey. What is the best online platform to move your business to? I own a small gift shop and currently only have a website. Are there any tutorials available anywhere?
Okay. So to answer that question, I would need a little more information. And who asked it here? It says anonymous. Is there any more, like when you say online platform, to do what?
Wonder if he's going to ask any more questions there. I don't think they're typing any more.
Okay. So
clarity to it. Sorry.
No worries. So then, based on what I'm seeing here, best online platform to move your business. I own a small gift shop and currently only have a website. Are there any tutorials anywhere? So I'm going to assume you have a small gift shop. You're used to having people into your gift shop to sell products, and you have a basic website, but ideally you want to sell things online. That's going to be my guess. So I'm going to answer the question based on that.
Sounds good.
If you're trying to sell products online, I think there are 2 or 3 really good options. The first option that is very much, you know, you can, for the most part, if you can use your browser, you can figure out how to do it, and that would be Shopify. Shopify is an easy platform. You don't have to know how to be a web developer to get it up and running. You can go into Shopify, create a store, pay a nominal monthly fee. You can accept transactions. If you want to cut down on your monthly costs, then you could accomplish the same thing with a WordPress website with WooCommerce, and you can sell products that way. Those would be my 2 recommendations. I'd highly recommend for a DIY person, use Shopify, because there are a ton of tutorials. And if you just Google Shopify tutorials for setting up an e-commerce store, or even just looking on YouTube, you'll probably be able to work your way through it. And it's relatively easy to get your e-commerce transaction set up with your payment gateway to actually collect money. So if there's more questions about e-commerce, website development, feel free to reach out to me directly afterwards. I'm happy to answer any questions in more detail.
Great, thanks, Corey. Another one here. I've been feeling very guilty as my children are out of school and not currently getting an education. I do not have enough time or resources to keep them learning during these times. Maybe or Linda or Michelle?
Yeah, so I definitely think that right now, what's most important is your emotional regulation. So a lot of people are feeling that way. And I've heard from a lot of parents who are concerned that, you know, they're not keeping their children engaged. And I think that that expectation being put onto parents is unfair. I don't think that you should feel as though you need to be keeping them, you know, constantly working on worksheets and constantly doing things. And I know that it's hard when you compare, you know, what other people are doing on the internet, but most importantly, and I've actually read a couple studies on the fact that during times of disruption, what's most important is actually keeping yourself as a pillar of strength for your child, as opposed to a source of education for your child. So I would say, don't feel guilty. If parents do want any sort of resources, they can reach out to us. And we've actually been sharing free resources with parents, because I know how hard it is when you're already working to go and now find curriculum appropriate resources. But I would say definitely don't feel guilty. Just the fact that you feel guilty goes to show that you do care and you actually are putting in an effort. And you know, this will pass. And I don't think that kids right now need to constantly be working on things. At the end of the day, they're going to catch up, and it depends on what grade age group they're in. But you know, if that catch up takes place over the summer, that's okay too, when things are a little bit less stressful for you as well. Because right now, most parents that are working from home are struggling with the fact that they have to work from home, and that's, you know, nobody's fault, and you're doing the best you can. So that's totally great. No need to get down on yourself about it.
And
Thanks, Arlinda.
I would just add a little bit to that. I would say that children are very resilient, and remember that it's really important. They will take their cues from you. So in terms of your emotional self-regulation, and if you're experiencing quite a bit of anxiety, they are going to pick up on that. So one of the best things you can do is promote some self-care for yourself. Make sure you take some breaks. And if you're feeling really stressed in terms of your mental health, absolutely reach out to some of the resources online. It's important to talk to other people. There's a couple of really good resources. Big White Wall is one of them, where you can get some help if you're feeling really stressed. And that self-care piece is really important. I would also say that learning happens in lots of different ways. It doesn't have to be formal worksheet learning. Learning can happen in any environment. And when you think about your kids, like whether they're, playing with Play-Doh, or they're building a puzzle, or maybe they're even, trying their hand at baking or something like that, those are all opportunities to learn. Learning does not have to look like regular classroom learning.
Right, exactly. Thanks, Michelle. Heather, I'm going to direct this one to you. What is the best way to set up a work from home setup?
So I think probably the best thing, and I would show you my office, but I've got some boxes piled up here, but I'm fortunate to have a separate office. I've had an office space for many years because of my situation, but I think the best, I would say, if it's possible and if you're able to, have a separate closed off room. And I was gonna, if there was an opportunity, I was gonna add that, when our door is closed, so right now my door is closed to my office, the best message you can send your kids is when that door is closed, I'll say mommy, but mommy or daddy, is we're on the phone, we're on a call, and we set an example, right? And then what I do is I sort of have I have that conversation with my children. I have 2 older children, but I have an 8-year-old as well. And he's been younger too in past years, where he's working around my feet, and I've given him, something to scribble on. And what I've communicated is, how can you play a role in mommy being able to do her best work while I'm working? And then when it's snuggle time or it's playtime, I will make that time for you. And so really having that structure for them. So you've all spoken to that in some degree. Setting good boundaries and expectations for your children comes along with setting your office space and having, when you're in your office behind your desk at your laptop, the kids know if they peeked in at me, they know, and I'll just point to my ear, I'm on my call, right? Because I use Zoom for over 6 years. And that sort of sets that structure and those boundaries so that when they see I'm in front of my laptop, oh, mom's working, do not disturb, right? And it's really having that, so both from a physical space aspect, setting up your space so that people know I'm not just sitting at the kitchen table, writing a blog post or doing some work. This is like, I'm actually going to be on a call, or I'm going to be doing a webinar, or I'm going to be teaching a workshop. So that's been really key in terms of being able to set up your space and have that really successful ability to let your children know, this is when the door is open. If my door is open after a webinar, I'll open the door. And then if my little guy peeks his head in, he knows, oh, the door's open, and I'll give him a nod. Yeah, come on in. Yeah. So that's been, it's communication. My background is in communication. And so using your body language, if I do one of these, it's like, no, do not enter. But yeah, I think setting up your space as best you can. And I understand not everybody has I'm fortunate to have that, but not everybody has that separate space. But if you can even park your laptop in a separate space where you can close a door, it gives your children that message that, okay, you know what, it's mommy's work time or daddy's work time.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Sandy, do you mind if I just add something?
Absolutely.
So as the owner of 44 North, for all the business leaders that are on this webinar, I think it's our responsibility to support our staff. Because we have to recognize that all of our employees who have kids and who have families at home are struggling with this, and we need to be adaptable and we need to be flexible and support them through this time. So for example, we have a fantastic team and they work their butts off, but what I found is not one of them would take a break through the entire day. They're not used to working from home. So we've mandated an 11:45 to 12:30 shutdown every day. You're not allowed to work. You have to shut your laptop. You're not allowed to answer your phone, and we will not have meetings during that time. And during that 45 minutes, we want you to go and spend time with your kids, spend time with your family, make lunch, go for a walk, go out in the backyard, run around, whatever it is that helps find some kind of balance here. The other thing that we're doing is Wednesday mornings and Friday mornings, one of our staff is a yoga instructor. So she runs a team half-an-hour yoga session by webinar for our team, and all of our staff hop on with their kids, and even husbands and boyfriends and girlfriends join in. And it's a great way to build camaraderie, but it's also a great way to interact with our kids and make them feel like they're part of it. And then the last thing that we're doing is on Fridays at 4, we do a beer call, a virtual beer call. Now you call it a beer call, a wine call, a juice call, it doesn't matter. But last Friday we had all of our staff with their families, with their kids, all interacting. And I feel like if you build the families into this and support your staff and provide some flexibility, it goes a long way. So food for thought. I think it's on us as leaders to support our staff and guide them, because they may not have the experience dealing with something like this, and to force them to shut down goes a long way.
Great advice, Corey. Thank you. Okay, there's some repeats here. So how would you address clients and others during email responses during this crisis? Hope you're hanging in there, etc. Who wants to jump in there?
I've been saying, hope, in general, hope you are staying safe and healthy. I don't think that it needs to be anything extensive. I think addressing it is more than enough. Depending on your relationship with the client, right? If it's someone that you work with continually, then perhaps initiate a more extensive conversation about how are they doing? Do they need any support? Depending again on what kind of business you are and whether or not you can offer that support. But if you have clients that are, across the world that you can't help necessarily in a more immediate way, then just asking, or saying, hope you're staying healthy and well during this, uncertain time or during this time is, in my opinion, quite a lot, just addressing it. Right. One thing that we have told our clients is that if they are in the Barrie area, if they had to be quarantined, because we work with a lot of families and we know a lot of them were away for March break, we actually were offering people to bring them groceries. So if you can do something, I say offer it. But if your clients are remote or working from far, then just addressing it, and depending on your relationship, gauging how intensely you need to talk to them about it. I think that's usually, appreciated by people.
Okay. We have one here. Can anyone offer support on how to explain this to children? Mine have been exposed to hearing the news and everyone talking about it, and now are living in fear that they will catch this. Any advice?
I could jump in here. It's Michelle. So one of the things I would say is don't have the news on continually. So I would say make sure that if you need to catch up on that, do it at a time when your kids are not present. Having it streaming all the time is just going to add to anxiety. And then in terms of explaining it, one of the things that you can do is really explain it as far as it's something that's unusual. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it won't be like this forever. And in terms of fears, depending on the age of the child, one of the things a strategy that you can do at the dinner table later on when everybody's together as a family one of the things you can do is play a game called high-low. So basically, what you do is you go around the table. Everybody has an opportunity to share something great about their day and then something they're concerned about in terms of their day. And what that does is it gives you the opportunity as a family to understand where everybody's at emotionally. It gives you an opportunity to celebrate the things that are fun and great, but it also gives you an opportunity to take an emotional pulse and kind of get a thermometer, a read on what's really concerning your kids and what's worrying your kids. And then you may want to take some time with an individual child, maybe when you're putting them to bed, to have a time to like really address their concerns in private if they're really anxious. And just getting things out in the open and giving them as much information as you can, but not too much information. That's really important. Too much information to process can be overwhelming for them, but giving them enough information that, you know, you are basically their emotional go-to right now. So the best you can do is remain calm yourself, give them factual information, and let them know that if they're scared, the best thing they can do is talk about it.
Good advice, Michelle. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Did you have something you want to say, Heather?
Well, I was going to add to that, and because of the range of my kids, 8, 16, and 18, the oldest is missing a boyfriend, and and talking on FaceTime. And I said, what a gift to be able to, back in my day, we wouldn't have had FaceTime, and like, what a gift. So I said, acknowledge what they're feeling. And she and I go out for lots of walks at night, and really try and do mini dates with my kids, right? Because I am working every day, all day. And for the youngest, for my 8-year-olds, Michelle made some great points around acknowledging some of the fears and letting them know, what, we're doing all the right things here. We're listening, we're paying attention to what medical professionals are saying and suggesting, and we're washing hands, and we're not going out. And it's about acknowledging their, the fears and the questions and the situation itself. But I think, the best thing that we can do, like you said, is be there for our children and say, I'm scared too. I don't know what this is. This is really unusual. But at the same time, we're doing all the things that they're suggesting, and we're keeping each other safe. And, I think that's sort of the biggest thing.
Perfect. Thanks,
and giving them something like, my middle guy likes music, so he's been playing guitar, and giving them a platform that they can play guitar with their buddies like they normally would be. That's what he's missing the most, is his friends. Mm-hmm. So yeah,
right.
Just wanted to add that.
Okay, thank you. If I'm having trouble meeting a deadline for work due to having to care for both my kids and my elderly parents, should I let my manager know this? How can I be professional in this conversation? I do not want to risk losing my job during this turbulent time. Corey?
I had this come up yesterday, actually. So we have one of my staff. She has 3 young kids, 2 of her own and 1 from her marriage. And her husband also works a full-time job, and they're both working from home. So she called me yesterday around 2 o'clock in the afternoon and said, I have to be honest, I have not been productive today, and I'm really struggling. What can we do? And here's the way I look at it. In this situation, I think I have a responsibility as an employer to provide flexibility. She has a responsibility as an employee to live up to her end of the deal and be flexible. Her husband has a responsibility to live up to his end of his deal as a husband and as an employee. And so does her husband's employer. So really there's the 4 of us that all have to get together here and see how we can make this work. I think it's in all of our best interests to find a solution. And here's what I suggested. I said, why don't you and your husband come down and come up with a family plan? You have 3 kids, they have to be cared for. Perhaps you could work out, you work the morning shift and he worked the afternoon shift, right? And our office, all non-essential businesses are closed, but our office is in a Century Home, and there's nobody there. And I said, you know, the office is there. If you want to use it, there's nobody else there. It is clean. You could, if you feel comfortable, get out of the house for 4 hours in the morning, go do what you need to do from a sales perspective from 8 until noon, and then head home and then be a mom in the afternoon and allow your husband to work then. And then try and make up the other time, either before the kids wake up or after they go to bed. But ultimately, regardless of the solution, I think it's about finding ways to collaborate. And it's as much the employer responsibility as the employee. And I would encourage any employee that's struggling to have an open and transparent conversation with their employer.
Great, good advice. Here's another one here. How do you keep a good balance of keeping the kids busy while also being on conference calls other than just study time?
I have some suggestions here. One of the things that I think would be really helpful is to give your kids some choice. So if you're wanting to limit the screen time, give your children choices, but limit the choices. So if your kids are little, you can use something. I have something here. I'm going to show it on the screen here. It's called a choice board. And for little kids, when you use visuals, it's really helpful. Can you see that? So basically, you would say, okay, during this time period, you can pick to do one of these three things. What do you pick? So they can choose what they want to do. And then what it does is it gives them the ability to have some control. So they've got a little bit of control because they made the choice. And then it gives you the opportunity to say, okay, I'll make sure that you have what you need to do that activity while I'm doing my work. So your responsibility is to ensure they have what they need. It could be something that is, you know, an indoor activity. I'll give you another one here. This one is like crayons, puzzles, Play-Doh. Then you get them set up, sorted, and then the other thing you can do is say, for this amount of time, and use timers. Use your stove timer, or if you have young kids, one of the things I would suggest is maybe investing in a visual timer. So basically, it shows time moving. So you can say for the next 30 minutes. Mommy or daddy is going to be working. You're going to be working on your activity that you chose. And then when the timer rings, we're done, and then we can do something together. So it's almost like setting up a little bit of a contract with your child. But the thing that's really good about it is you've put in some concrete things. So they can know that the time is going to end either by the beeping of the timer, or if you have a visual timer, when the red goes away, that means the time is up and you can do something else. And by giving them choice, you've given them some power and control over their routine. It's really a powerful thing that you can do, and it helps your kids get on board with the flow of how life looks right now.
So if you're looking for a timer like Michelle was talking about, there's a really great app called Focus Keeper. We use this with kids that have issues with focus for studying, and so you can actually kind of regulate the on and off time. So, you know, if you're doing 4 rounds of 20 minutes on with work or with one particular focused activity like Michelle was saying, and then you say, okay, once you're done this 20 minutes, we will have a 10-minute break, and then we're going to go back into another 20 minutes of focus. And we like to call it high intensity training for your brain, where you're kind of just getting them in that habit of focusing for a certain amount of time, and then there's a break, and then we do another focus session, and then there's a break. So the app Focus Keeper is really good for that. And yeah, I totally agree with everything Michelle said, where giving them choice, but also having a limited number of choices so that you are empowering them to decide what they want to do, but still allowing them to make that decision for themselves. So yeah, sorry, over to Heather.
Great. Heather?
That's okay. I'm as I'm listening, I'm all really great advice and suggestions. And I'm just thinking about my two boys. So my one boy is 8 and my other boy is 16. So if I hear the voice level going up and I'm on a call and I'm just wrapping up, I will actually go and ask them, you know, would it be helpful to get outside for a bit? Or do you need some mini stick time or hockey time? And move the cars out of the driveway and let them go to town and let them have their, what I call boy time, where they can, you know, be rough and tough and sort of, you know, monitor by what I hear the voices getting louder, or they're starting to fight or pick at each other. So for any parents out there that are dealing with boys or even girls that, you know, you hear the tension building, it's like Michelle said, giving them an opportunity to choose what. So would you like to play mini sticks in the basement, or would you like to go outside in the fresh air, and then block that time for them, and giving them options is huge. I think that's brilliant, Michelle. But giving them outside time, getting that fresh air, because they're supposed to have 60 minutes minimum a day outside and running around. So, and I have a daughter and then 2 boys, and I find the boys do need that exercise and that, you know, get out their frustrations time. So I just wanted to add that, and blocking that time and giving them that outlet.
Great. I have one here that I'm sure we're all dealing with. Do you have any tips to avoid the constant snacking for the kids and for me too? Anybody have any tips on snacking?
That's one I haven't cracked personally, but if anyone else has figured it out.
I think you could build it into your schedule, like when, you know, meal times are, if there's like a break time, limit your eating to the times where you've established, like a break time mid-morning or meal time. And that also is just something you can build into your routine. And I think the other thing you can do is, I notice that carbs are a little bit easier to access, but really think about the night before, maybe cutting up a bunch of fruit and vegetables and putting them in the fridge, so that if it is snack time or meal time or whatever, you can pull out something healthy instead of resorting to the cookies or chips or whatever else is convenient in the cupboard. But yeah, I think just all about prep, and then limiting the eating time to your scheduled sort of break meal times. Otherwise, yeah, it's really a challenge for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Heather?
We actually had the children, because my children are older, so this might not apply to everybody, but we actually had them look up what, you know, a healthy fat, a carb, and a protein. And we've actually put them to task. You can do it with younger kids too, if you give them a sort of a smorgasbord of things and have them come up with their own snack plates, right? So they come up with that, and whatever's on their plate they can have. And then lots of water too. So staying hydrated, it helps with mental wellness as well. And so staying hydrated, and then having that balanced snack or meal throughout the day. And I like the time blocking too. You know, you got 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and then it's outside, or then it's back to whatever tasks you were doing or whatever playtime.
Good. Do you have any strategies to get kids engaged in school type activities when they're out of routine, specifically when facing social challenges such as autism or learning disabilities?
So with regards to this in general, and as specifically with children who do have, you know, autism or learning disabilities, I think that part of it is allowing for alternate educational experiences. So, you know, baking can be an educational experience, and having them engaged in that in a way that, you know, say that they're at an age where they understand fractions, then we can incorporate the learning of fractions into baking, and how we transfer, you know, or convert a certain half a cup of sugar into how many quarters of sugar, things like that. I think that ultimately, at the end of the day, when you are working with young children, you have to take into consideration their particular learning style. And sometimes, like we said earlier, that's not always sitting down and doing a worksheet. Sometimes that actually involves teaching them in a way that's conducive to how they learn. So if they're a kinesthetic learner, let's incorporate blocks, or let's incorporate some other kind of learning activity that can keep them engaged in a way that is helpful to you, because, you know, it's helping regulate their emotions and their feelings about being out of school, while also keeping them working on something related to school. So there's lots of, I mean, I know that's kind of a broad answer. It's hard to say when you don't know the child in particular and
Right.
how
I
they
think that
learn,
helps.
but yeah, but
Yeah.
there are lots of different things. I mean, I've heard of parents during this time teaching their kids how to change a tire. I think that's an important educational experience, right? Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be, okay, well, today we're working on reading. And even if you want to work on reading, that's amazing. And there's tons of resources out there. And like I said, if any parents are looking for free resources, feel free to reach out to us at Scholarly Elite Tutoring, and we can email you some resources that you can use. But I think for every child, it's just about knowing their learning needs and then finding activities that they find interesting so that you can incorporate those learning needs into something that's more involved and that you can do together.
Great.
The other, Sandy, if I may, the other thing that could be helpful is if you use a strategy called first then. So one of the things that you can do is, if you want to build in some time for maybe a non-preferred activity, but it's something that you'd like your child to spend some time doing, you can use something called first then. So first, we're going to work together on whatever it is you're hoping to achieve with them. And then the second thing you would do is a preferred activity that the child identifies themselves. So first we're going to read together if that's something that you would like to work on with your child. And then we're going to do something, maybe you give your child some time with a preferred thing, like time on their iPad or something like that. But what it does is, again, it's a bit of a contract. What you're doing is you're establishing boundaries around activities. So we do this and then we do this. And it's super important that you follow through with the second thing. Even if the first thing doesn't go as greatly as you had hoped it would, you're saying first we do this, then we do this. So it's important to follow through with that second thing. And those, establishing those routines and patterns will really help children who are maybe perhaps more rigid thinkers to understand what the rules are. And especially with children who are perhaps on the autism spectrum, having that predictability and establishing those rules is super important. It will really help to reduce their stress. The more you can make things predictable, routine, they will do better in that type of environment.
Great. Thanks, Michelle.
Sorry, just to add one thing.
Yeah.
If your child does have an IEP from school and you have a copy of it, it's actually a really great resource because you can see what they do at school and what their accommodations are at school, and you can try incorporating those into your day-to-day. So say that they have, chunking of tasks. That might be something that your child has become used to in the school environment. And if you are trying to engage them in educational activities at home, that's probably a great way to keep them working on things from school if you do have work, in a way that they're used to doing, because so much of that has to do with the structure and the routine of it. And if they feel like, especially children with autism, any like ASD or ADHD, if they're in an environment that they don't find helpful to how they learn, it's actually going to throw off their entire system. And for parents looking for more information on this, there's a doctor named Dr. Shanker. He has a book and also many resources online. There's a wealth of information there for helping children regulate the 5 domains of stress and what domain is affecting them in this time. I don't want to take up too much time with this, so if anyone has questions about that, again, feel free to message us at Scholarly Elite Tutoring and I can send you those resources. But also the timer we discussed earlier, the Pomodoro timer, that really helps with children with certain types of learning disabilities. So it's very important though that you kind of go first based off of how much time can they actually focus for. So if we have to start with 5 minutes on, then that's okay. We do a 5 minute on, 5 minute off, and then we build up to more intense times. So anyways, that was just my last.
No, that's great information, Arlinda. Thank you. Thank you both. This is kind of a bit of a repeat, but I'm just going to get you to repeat, Arlinda, your website. The question is, I have one child finishing grade 2 and the other finishing grade 8. They are with me sometimes and their mother isn't sharing any info on their education. Where can I look for more education resources in addition to the Simcoe County School Board?
Okay, so our website is scholarlyelite.com. Or you can find us on Instagram at scholarly.elite.tutoring. But with regards to finding more resources, like I said, you can message us and we'll send you resources. But also right now, basically they announced yesterday that the schools actually will have to be providing resources. So I have the list here. Kids in kindergarten to grade 3, they have 5 hours of work per week. Grades 4 to 5, 5 hours a week. 7 to 8, they're going to have 10 hours a week, and then grades 9 to 12 are going to have 3 hours a week per course. So you will have some resources rolling in from teachers as well. And then on top of that, somebody in the chat earlier mentioned Khan Academy. That's a really great tool. For people with children in high school, they can join us on Thursdays. We're actually offering free live tutoring to kids. It's first going to be a math lesson and then tutoring at freemathhelp.ca. So that we can kind of help families stay engaged. But with regards to getting more information, that's going to come out in the next week. So I think that, for parents who are co-parenting, that communication piece is a big one. And I know that sometimes one parent isn't always going to be communicating with the other one. So just getting in touch with your child's teacher in particular, you have every right to do that. And the teacher is most often happy to talk to both parents separately if need be. So if you want to stay on track with that, I think within the next week, you will be getting more resources, and just getting to the teacher directly will be a great way to do that. And then the government has also issued a website. I think it's ontario.ca/learn-at-home. I could be wrong about that website name, but if you just Google Ontario and Learn at Home, there's a lot of resources there that they've put up as well that are very, grade specific and actually outline what is necessary for each part of the curriculum. So hopefully one of those things helps.
I've got one as well. I'd encourage you to check out Arlinda's company first. We need to support our local Barrie businesses. We do have a client here in London. There's a press release that's going out today to Canadian Newswire, so you may see it in the news, but they just launched a free program for kindergarten to grade 6, and there's 20 days of free learning activities. And then they've also got paid programming for homeschool programs, like a 12-week program. And the company's called Chalkboard Publishing. You may have seen them in Costco and Scholar's Choice, but check out Arlinda's stuff. If Arlinda can't help you, then by all means, check out Chalkboard Publishing.
I actually really approve of Chalkboard Publishing. I love their stuff. So they're a great resource as well.
Awesome.
Great.
And there's discount codes going around as well. So just keep an eye on Facebook.
Okay, another one. My kids are having a hard time not seeing their grandparents. They were with them daily and now they are unable to see them. Both my in-laws are devastated by this.
I can answer. So, sorry, go ahead, Heather.
No, that's okay. You go ahead, Michelle.
I think the first question I would ask is technology available to either Skype or Zoom or Blue Jeans or FaceTime in the absence of physical contact? I think the best we can do is face-to-face contact. The other thing is, if that's not possible, I would use the phone as much as possible, because short of seeing the person, hearing their voice is very powerful as well. So, of course, the best relationship contact is in person, but that's not possible right now. So second, I would say something like this type of platform. And third, I would say is telephone. The other thing you could do, and it's an old an old way of communicating, but you could send letters, and that it's an old art form, but it's something that is pretty powerful in terms of communication and receiving something and giving something to a loved one.
Great, thank you. Okay, we'll answer a couple more and then we'll wrap it up just to be cognizant of everybody's time. I have one here. My husband is still going into work. I become terrified when he comes home that he will get our children sick. How can he ask to work from home, and can he? He is an engineer. I'm not sure if any of us can really answer that question, but I'll throw it out there.
I mean, the only thing I would say is, yeah, ask the question, put it out there and see if it's possible. And, there's lots of platforms like this. If they do need to connect, yes, in person working is always easier from a team perspective. Our team is fully remote as well. Yes, we used to work around a big table in our office, and now we're all at our separate desks. So I totally understand that. But I think maybe asking the question and feeling empowered to do that, given the situation, it doesn't hurt to ask. And that's, I'm so sorry for that person. I feel you. I'm very fortunate that my husband is home. And so I feel you.
Yeah. Okay, I am due to have a baby soon and fear I will have no help at home having my mother over due to the virus. Do you have any resource suggestions that I could access to calm some anxiety I might have?
I can jump in here. I would say one of the things you could do is reach out to Public Health, Health Connect, and see if there's some resources there that they can offer you in terms of support for when you have your new little one at home. And congratulations. It's a time to also experience the joy of new life. And but I understand your anxiety, and I would say reaching out to Public Health or Health Connect is where you could get the best information in terms of resources available to you.
Great, thanks, Michelle. We'll do one last one. I think we'll direct this to Corey. Any tips on how to adapt your digital strategy during COVID-19?
That's a great question, and it's something we've been focused 100% on with pretty much every one of our clients for the past 2 or 3 weeks. I would say March 13th, March 15th is really when this hit home for us. It was the Friday going into the weekend about 2 weeks ago. And what we found during that time is all of our clients, we have a roster of about 100 different clients. They all started having the same concerns. What do we do now? So I think first off is you got to get your remote working environment set up. Okay, so finding the tools that work for your company with your team so that you can continue running operations. We have a blog that's going to go up on our website today, and it outlines the platforms that we use to communicate within our team. We talk about what we use for communication, file storage, invoicing, etc. So I would encourage you to check that out. Once you get your operational situation squared away, then my next recommendation would be recognize that what was working before for you as a company in the old world likely is not working now. And we basically have two options. We roll over and die as a company, which we don't want to do because we have our livelihoods and our employees to take care of, or we adapt. And we need to adapt to this new working environment. And what I think all of us need to do is look at our companies and say, what is the value that we're providing right now? And what do our target customers need from us? What are their problems? What are their goals? And how have they changed since this started? For example, we have a window and door client. They sell windows and doors to people, and typically, windows and doors are sold with face-to-face meetings around a kitchen table at your home. So how do you keep operating a window and door business when you can't go into somebody's home and sell to them? You have to adapt. And what we built out for them is a fully interactive quoting platform where their customers can come on, specify all the information that they need. And we've even started leveraging a piece of technology that allows you to take photos of your home, and it renders it into a 3D model and allows our client to do measurements in real time from their office, and then work with their target clients, which are homeowners, to select the colors of siding, select the window styles, and they can do it in a 3D model virtually and never have to set foot on the person's property. So this is our time to help our clients as a digital marketing company, and as business owners, it's your time to start innovating. It's about how do you adopt technology to meet your customers where they are and figure out what it is they need from you and how you can continue to support them. If there's one suggestion I have is, if you don't know how to do that, pick up the phone and call as many of your past customers as you need to have an open and honest conversation with them. Ask questions, figure out their pain points, figure out what their goals are, figure out their moods. And from there, you can start doing some of that brainstorming in terms of how do I meet them on their terms. So we've got 3 blogs that are going up on our website. The first one is about how to build out your remote working team technology stack. The second one is how to set up a weekly work schedule for your team. And the last one is how to market and sell during this crisis. I'd encourage you to check out all 3 because I think there's some really good tips for you guys in terms of what you might want to do.
Great, thanks, Corey. Well, thanks everyone for joining us this morning. And in closing, I'd just like to thank you guys all for all your hard work you're doing in the business community. We urge every leader in the community to immediately shift focus to the singular objective and slowing the pace of the transmission of the coronavirus. Both our provincial and federal governments have enacted measures that will only be effective if all employers step up and do their part to protect our provincial health and welfare. All levels of governments have expressed a commitment to protect businesses, employees, and everyday Canadians to ensure that we can come through this together. I also strongly urge everyone to stay home, avoid any travel to cottages, stop the spread of the virus. The hospitals and the grocery stores in those areas are just not equipped to deal with the influx of people at this time and will quickly become dangerously overwhelmed. The Barrie Chamber and Sandbox are here to help you through this. Please feel free to email or call if you need something more. We implore everyone to shop local. We need that more now than ever to support our local businesses, whether it's takeout from a restaurant or gift certificates to help businesses ride out the storm. Every little bit will help someone. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
You.
Thanks for having us.